We spent about 30 grand and haven't got back 30 grand yet. Paid ads is getting a lot harder, a lot more competitive. And everyone watching this, if you're an agency owner or if you're offering any business service that's not like a groundbreaking new technology, you have a lot of competition. Competition is getting more fierce. Facebook ads is getting crappier. The leaders of Facebook are screwing up. Platform's getting worse and worse. The reach is getting worse and worse. The ads are going up. And I feel like Mark Zuckerberg is just lost in the metaverse, right? Welcome, agency owners and entrepreneurs. Welcome to another episode of How to Scale an Agency. I'm your host, AJ Quesada, co-founder of Revenue Boost, where we help agencies scale their revenue 2x using cold email and LinkedIn. And you guys are in for a treat today because I have Ramy on, who is the founder of Emerge Digital. And Ramy's been a friend of mine for a while and a client of ours in 2023. And he's going to share his strategy today and talk about his journey growing his agency and specifically how he's been able to book 3, 4, sometimes even 5 sales calls a day without spending on ads, just using cold email. So you guys are really in for a treat because, like we always make these podcasts and these Facebook lives to share with you what's working now, how to scale your agency, how to get more clients, how to get more leads. And it's always nice when we can spotlight one of our clients as someone we're working with to share from their perspective how it was from like step 1 to step 10, right? So Ramy's been doing some amazing things and is absolutely blowing up, filling up his calendar with sales calls, just using cold email, just spending really a few $100 a month in tools. So really excited to just get into his journey today. And I know a lot of you will relate to this because I know a lot of you guys out there are struggling with like, how do I get more leads from my agency? How do I get more clients, right? Maybe you rely on referrals, maybe you rely on networking. I know that was the case for Ramy before we met. I know it's tough, right? Because there's so many different ways to get clients. So how do you know what the right one is for you and how do you get started? So if you're feeling a little bit stuck on like how to scale your agency, then you're really going to relate to this story. And yeah, without further ado, welcome to the show, Ramy.
Thank you, AJ. Maybe a little bit about myself. I
Yeah.
guess I've always been passionate about technology. And from a young age, my father had a computer present at home and we had the internet connection all the way back from the dial-up days. And we'd hear that tone in terms of connecting to the internet. So I do remember the internet when it was very kind of nascent from a web experience. And I've kind of followed that journey for quite some time. And that's what's kind of kept me passionate. In terms of an academic background, I do have a computer science kind of background. I've studied at the University of Sydney and kind of completed my studies there. So really, the tech space, it is kind of an area I've been diving deep into quite some time for now. And, I've kind of used those skills along the way to really identify or find what it is I'm actually enjoying or kind of taking forward in terms of an entrepreneurial path. From a career perspective, usually you come to find that people will tell you you should become a specialist at one particular area. And with an entrepreneur, it's probably not going to be the circumstance. You start to become more of a generalist. And in many circumstances, I would face this dilemma from kind of day-to-day hardships of just being an entrepreneur and thinking to myself, maybe I should enter back into the workforce. And it was sometimes a challenge, kind of having that generalist kind of expertise to really identify a role that you would kind of fit into within a company. So this is why I guess I've kind of taken this broad experience I've got from the tech space and really kind of brought these solutions that I have to the market and been providing these solutions to the market now for about 6 to 7 years.
Nice.
Initially, before I started Merge Digital, I would just be freelancing under my name. And then it was kind of a clear indication to me that to grow a business or to scale the revenue objective that I did have in mind, it would have to kind of grow past just my personality or being a freelancer. This is why I've kind of put Emerge Digital together as a brand. And primarily my skills were focused around biddable and paid media. And I would probably be deemed as a technical marketer. So really I was focused on the aspects of using paid budgets to kind of drive outcomes for business. Then as we started facing some challenges as marketers, primarily around privacy first web, we had to kind of navigate some of these changes about how we'd adopt durable tracking and mitigate these issues that we were facing that marketers were not necessarily able to track the way they used to. And again, the tracking is what is driving bidding algorithms. So really, this is what caused me to expand further. And, as I touched on initially, that, I was a generalist in terms of I enjoyed all areas or facets of the tech space. And looking into organic outbound channels, again, was a no-brainer for me. Because from a marketer's perspective, we need to look at all the tools that we have at our disposal. Organic SEO was, for instance, one area that I really specialized in. I've got a strong skill set in that. And it is a service I've been offering to my clients for quite some time. I've got some really good success stories around first page, first position rankings for service-based businesses, for businesses that really needed to focus on a localized area. And then, given that organic SEO was one area that was working, I needed to kind of expand further and have a look at other organic channels that would be working well. So I started a conversation with AJ. I was following AJ and Revenue Boost for quite some time. I think there was a conversation that happened in terms of how is it that I could use, for instance, LinkedIn as well as cold email to be driving those organic outcomes back to my business, to be setting more appointments and booking those appointments in my calendar. And that's what kind of pushed me across the line. And I've signed up for the course. That was back in January. And really, it's proven quite a worthwhile investment from my perspective. That's really 12 months in retrospect of what led me to this journey of cold email and where I am today. Yes, I would say that now that I've identified a particular offer, a niche, I'm able to bring in 4 to 5 sales qualified appointments into my calendar consistently each day. And probably would have not been possible unless I did test cold email as a channel.
Amazing. No, I think that really sets the stage, and it's cool. Yeah. So it's been almost a year since we first met. Our 1 year cold emailing anniversary, me and you. And I remember, when we first met, you were like a lot of our clients and students where you were really good at what you do, right? Like, so you're very technically savvy, right? Like the things that you were telling me you do for your clients with Google Analytics and tracking all these things, it was really mind blowing, right? But yeah, no matter how good you are at what you do, if you cannot get consistent meetings booked and qualified leads, you don't really have a business. You have like a freelancing gig that's very up and down, right? And I know a lot of people can relate to that.
There were some months where revenue was, quite high, and then some other months where things would really slow down. And I think the idea behind having a solid outbound kind of a system is to ensure that there is more consistency around the lead generation process.
Yeah, totally.
Having this system in place is what's generating this consistency. It's making sure that you've got the systems in place so that you're reaching the people that you should be reaching without having to sacrifice hard-earned dollars towards paid media. And then again, the paid media space is actually getting more and more competitive each day. And what did once work isn't necessarily working for marketers. At the same time, the competition is increasing, then your cost per acquisition or the conversion itself is also increasing. So when you look at organic channels themselves, really this is kind of a no-brainer that there should be a balance between the two if you're looking to incorporate, say, traffic acquisition channels. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, because I think, sometimes I feel like, so when I talk about cold email or getting clients on LinkedIn, I feel like a lot of people sometimes they're like, well, AJ, you've been doing this forever. Of course you're good at it. I can't do that, right? We all have these limiting beliefs. So that's why I love putting a spotlight on someone like you, who was a complete beginner to this channel a year ago. And now you're literally, your calendar is packed with appointments, right? So like anyone can do this, right?
Now that you touch on this point of being an absolute beginner, I would look into my mailbox and I would receive cold email on a consistent basis. I'd think to myself for a very long time, how is it that these people were able to receive, or I guess have my business email, then reach out to me in a personalized manner? And this was something that stood out to me for quite some time. And I could tell some of their outreach, although it was not really optimized.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it's, yeah.
It was crap.
It was crap, yeah.
But at the same time, it was good enough to grab my attention for 3 to 4 seconds. And whether they actually had a solution to my problems at that time, maybe they were lucky and they would receive a reply to me. But I think what we've done together, AJ, over the past 12 months is that we've really figured out how to actually identify the problem for that particular customer we're looking to go after. Right. To really go in head first, with the problem in the messaging of our email, and then present that kind of the solution to the problem for that prospect within the
Yeah,
second line right away. So really, it's
absolutely.
these kind of best practices that we take into writing the email that we need to take into consideration in our outreach. And yeah, so I think there is one very important component, that is, one, getting it done, but then
Yeah.
again, doing it in a way that where you're doing it really well, and it's giving that first impression from the get-go to your prospect that he's presented me with kind of a no-brainer offer or a call to action. I should probably respond to this person. Again,
Totally.
getting that response is what you're paying for from a paid media perspective in terms of a lead conversion. So you could be paying anywhere up to $20 to $30 per lead for a contact form submission from a paid media perspective. But to send out those emails, you could be reaching thousands of prospects from your ideal audience. And I think from the audiences that we're able to take from the tooling that you train us on,
Yeah.
I think those audiences are a lot more valuable than what your paid media networks would be presenting you with.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that too. So what I'm hearing from you, just to kind of paraphrase for everyone, is so a year ago you wanted to try cold email because you knew that you needed a way to not make revenue so up and down. You needed a consistent way to get clients, right? And what you found about cold email is that, so you came from a paid media background where you know that you got to spend money to get leads, spend money to get calls, right? And we all know
And
what
it
that's
worked.
like. I know a lot of people listening know that what that's like, right?
It worked really well for many years. But as I said to you, as marketers, we're facing challenges around
Absolutely.
that particular area, and we do our best to kind of navigate those challenges through aspects of technical marketing. Then again, we can't just rely upon one traffic source. There needs to be an omni-channel presence. So
Yep.
yeah.
Definitely. Yep. Definitely. Yeah. I think we definitely should get into the omnichannel side too for everyone listening. So we'll definitely make sure we cover that before the end. Another piece you mentioned is, okay, so first of all, from my own personal experience, just being transparent with everyone listening, we launched a paid ads via sell funnel in June for Revenue Boost. We spent about 30 grand and haven't got back 30 grand yet, right? So like paid ads is getting a lot harder, a lot more competitive. And everyone watching this, if you're an agency owner, or if you're offering any business service that's not like a groundbreaking new technology, you have a lot of competition, right? Competition is getting more fierce. Facebook ads is getting crappier. I mean, we were just talking before this call that the leaders of Facebook are screwing up, right? Like it's just that the platform's getting worse and worse. The reach is getting worse and worse. The ads are going up, right? And I feel like Mark Zuckerberg is just lost in the metaverse, right? So things are looking dim when it comes to paid media. Of course, it still works, but for B2B, it's just, I know a lot of people that are really struggling with B2B ads and they're shifting to cold email LinkedIn, right? So yeah, I've experienced the same problem that you're talking about, right?
Actually, I'm in regular conversation with many agency owners, agencies that have actually been around for much longer than I have. So they've already got established client bases. They've worked with your, kind of enterprise and government clients. They have these names and case studies already on their kind of books. And given that they've got such credibility, I still have these conversations with agency owners, and they tell me they're struggling with creating that consistent flow of leads, so much so
Right.
that I've showed them in the short term what it is that I'm doing, that now we're actually working together. And this is actually more than 2 to 3 agencies that this conversation has been having with. I've been having this with in the short term as of now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's also really cool. Something I want to touch on today is how you came to Revenue Boost and came to me to learn cold email LinkedIn to get more leads for your agency. But now you're offering this as a service and people are paying you for this, right? Because you just like really saw the opportunity with the channel. So I love that. I love that quick action taken and how you're actually monetizing this, not only for yourself, but you're getting people to pay you retainers for it now too.
Correct. Yes, it is a skill that I've kind of managed to really nail down in terms of the processes. From a fulfillment perspective, I've spent a lot of time within the groups that are present for these tools that we are using. So with Instantly, for example, we've got the cold email masterclass, is it, Facebook group?
Yeah.
That Facebook group for myself is very valuable. I'm finding a lot of like-minded people that are spending a lot of time within these tools, within these communities that can provide you a lot of value, primarily around, for instance, setting up your mailbox and your email accounts.
Yeah, me too. I've connected with a lot of great people from that group. Yeah.
Those up can take a lot of time and messing around with DNS records, which is quite fiddly. And kind of to have a solution provider in terms of being able to provide that email infrastructure at scale, not only for my activities, but for clients' activities, for me was quite valuable. Again, it automatically identified an opportunity for me that there are certain components that I could be packaging, that I could turn into processes that then I could actually package all together to actually provide this as a managed service, as I've done
Right.
so.
Right.
So when I think about any of these services in my agency, we don't necessarily have full-time internal staff within our business. Rather, I've got a pool of talent that is distributed around the world that I could tap into at any time. They sit within my Slack workspace. So really, from my perspective as well, this was another area that I was looking to develop it from a service-based perspective. The same way I would, fulfill SEO campaigns. I would have someone that's dedicated, for instance, to link building, someone that's dedicated to copywriting, someone that's dedicated to the technical aspects of SEO. I saw that there are kind of certain components to the delivery of a cold email as a managed service that needed to be fulfilled. One was being the setup of the email mailboxes, the email accounts. The second component that I identified was the copywriting aspect. So I've been working with a few copywriters that assist me in terms of preparing that copy. Then it's the aspect of building the lists and doing the research around your audiences. So then again, it's working with the right people to have access to that data, whether it be through Zoom Info or Polo. We can access this data if you do spend sufficient time within those groups at a low cost. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the case that you need to have access to these tools yourself. You can use the free version of those tools, and you speak to certain people within those Facebook groups that can provide you with this data at a lower cost.
Yeah, I've met quite a few as well. I think the bigger lesson I'm hearing here is don't just try to do all this yourself. Not even just cold email, but just don't try to scale your agency all by yourself. There's experts who can save you months, years of trial and error, right? Like I always look for the best experts to teach me things. Yeah.
This is bringing us back to the initial introduction where I said to you that I'm a generalist. So really, when it comes to being a generalist, I think there are some aspects of project management or delegation that are skills in themselves that you as an agency owner should be developing on a day-to-day. When I did initially first start as an agency owner, I was the one in the tools, building those
doing everything
out, setting up campaigns, doing everything. Then again, now, for instance, even when it comes to having a positive reply on the campaigns, I've become so hands-off that I've got inbox managers that are managing the positive replies to the emails that come in from the campaigns, and then they'll set the appointment in my calendar on my behalf. So really, this is the type of service that I'm providing to the clients as well. Really, the messaging that comes to the provision of this managed service is that we only request that you sustain your cold email infrastructure, that is, pay for the email accounts or the workspace accounts, for example, and then we'll work on a pay per performance kind of model if necessary. So you only pay us when we set that sales qualified appointment in your calendar.
Killer offer. Yeah, that's great, man. Dude, there's so much I'm excited to unpack. First of all, I just want to virtually pat you on the back here because not only did you've come pretty far in a year, dude. I know sometimes as entrepreneurs and everyone listening can probably relate. We just kind of keep moving forward. We keep trying to get clients, sell, close, deliver, yada, yada. And sometimes we don't really look at the bigger picture. But the bigger picture I see here for you is that, a year ago, you had no sales system, right? You were just relying on referrals. You didn't really have a way to get clients. And I know that it's a painful place to be because it's stressful not knowing where the next client's going to come from. But now, go ahead.
Not only did I not have a sales system, AJ, I actually had no prior sales experience at all.
Yeah, I remember you were very nervous, like, okay, once I get leads, like, how do I close, how to make proposals? And you're still using our B2B proposal template, right? You've modified it, made it your own, but you're still using a lot of those fundamentals from the course, right?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate. I was different. I came from a sales background before I got into agency. I've been in sales for like 10 years. That's why I teach and coach agencies on sales. But I realized that a lot of people, they come from a technical or an agency background and they're not, experienced with sales. And, I think what we can highlight here is like, you don't need to be a master at sales. You just need the right process to follow, right? You're very good at like following a process. You didn't think like, oh, I'm an introvert, I'm not going to be good at sales, or maybe you thought these things, but you didn't let that stop you. What you did is you just, followed a proven sales process, a proven way to get leads, a proven way to do calls and close. And like in a year, you've just like really streamlined all of this. And now to the point you're actually delegating it, building a team and offering this to clients. So I think that's just a great accomplishment in just 1 year to not only like get a good foundation and get results and be getting 4 or 5 calls a day, but now you're actually like able to delegate it, which is level 2. So that's a lot in just 1 year. To me, that shows what happens when you really follow like a process that someone else has already figured out, and make it your own, of course.
I've heard someone say that when you spend close to 9 weeks really diving deep into a topic for more than 9 hours a day, you become an expert in that particular area. I'd
Interesting.
probably say I've exceeded that time kind of threshold on this particular area. And I've really spent countless hours trying to figure this out for myself. When I started to identify the winning formula for my business, and this is where I thought this is a good opportunity to be testing with other offers, with other businesses, and it kind of compounded from there. And that's what I've really been doing. And this is where the idea behind the paid per performance model actually comes in, because a lot of people that would be providing this as a managed service or as an offer, there are so many people providing cold email as a service. They promise the world, and the way kind of there is a hook behind setting up, for example, having an exorbitant setup fee, and then they tell you we'll work on a pay performance model. In my circumstance,
oh yeah, they bait and switch a little bit, right? A lot of people, they'll tell you, oh, it's pay per performance, but there's a really high setup fee, and then there's still, yeah, I know what you mean.
So in my circumstance, what I'm trying to do is to actually make that setup fee actually moderate in terms of cost, try and reduce those costs and the friction for clients to actually get started and set up a system like this for themselves.
Yeah, I love it, man. No, I think it's great. And I think we can touch on performance-based offers at the end. I think I've done a lot of performance marketing, and I found that like the best performance client I had was paying us like $20,000 a month it was basically mostly profit, right? And that was when I realized that performance-based is great if you have the right offer and the right client side. They were a really big global company, right? Performance-based can really get you in the door with really, really big fish who can pay you those 10, 20K a month retainers, right? It's not like every retainer is going to be that high, but when you create a performance-based offer, you can open yourself up to find these bigger companies who will pay you 5 figures a month, which is pretty cool.
But what I really like about cold email specifically is you can sell anything with cold email. It's just about getting your offer out, getting those impressions, and really from there are no limits in terms of what it is you can sell with cold email.
Totally agree. Yeah, actually, we're going to get into some tactics around specifically what's been working and how you've been able to book 3 to 5 sales calls a day consistently from cold email. Okay. But I just want to emphasize that really quick before we do, the fact that cold email works for anything. I hear this a lot, right? Because as you know, we're very well known in the cold email space. We're very known with like helping to scale agencies with cold email. And we always hear, hey, I don't know if cold email is going to work for my niche. Or I had someone tell me yesterday, LinkedIn is dead for my niche. And I'm like, dude, if your people are on LinkedIn, you can reach them and sell to them. If your people have an email, you can reach them and sell to them. I'd argue that like hands down, cold email works for more industries than Facebook ads does. Hands down. There's some industries that you cannot target with Facebook ads, right? There's some industries where you're just going to get like small businesses, not really big companies, right? But if everybody in the world has an email, you can reach them with cold email. So I think a lot of times people, they worry like this doesn't work for my niche or my industry is different. But what I'm hearing you say is you can literally get any kind of client with cold email. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
I agree. Yes. And this is why, from a paper performance perspective, we're looking to work with as many businesses as we can in terms of testing the offers that they have on hand. So I've signed on a client, for example, they're working in terms of providing accredited certifications in universities for advancing education in storerooms and kind of a warehouse type environment. And these certifications are kind of very niche. You would think to yourself, this is actually very difficult to sell, or but from looking at the audiences that we have on hand using the tools that we have at our disposal, there are actually job titles such as warehouse supervisor or storeroom manager. And again, these accreditations and these certifications are to target these particular people in these job titles. So when you think about how narrowed down you can become with the audience and reach that exact, I would call it laser targeted audience. It's not possible by doing a paid media campaign. Even
I
if you,
totally agree.
then again, it's about understanding the pain point that that prospect would be facing, making them internalize the problem that they have, and then selling them on the solution that you have for their problem. Because when I was as an employee or even as an entrepreneur, I would always face the difficulty in terms of selling that. I would try to explain the features,
Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember this from
what it
some of our
is,
first training calls.
what it is I'd be looking to provide in terms of the solution, or how I'm going to provide the solution, or what are the steps involved to providing that solution. But then again, all these finer details to how you provide the service or what this service is going to do for you isn't necessarily going to resonate with your prospect. You need to understand what that prospect's problem is, and then how ultimately your solution or service is solving their problem, and have them internalize what your solution is actually going to do in terms of solving their problem. And this is what actually brings in the sale.
Totally.
So I didn't necessarily quite grasp this concept. Moving now into the present future, I would say that I've had so many conversations with business owners now, and there's one common theme, and that is they all have a problem. It's about giving them the solution to that problem, not giving
Absolutely.
them the features of your service, or why your service is unique to other people's service, or why you are the best vendor in terms of fulfilling a particular solution. That doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what you've learned in the last year, aside from like the cold email side, like that right there is going to serve you and serve everyone listening if you just adopt that for the rest of your life, right? Like sales is not about pushing products. It's not about saying why you're better than the competitor. Because as soon as you do that, all the competitors are saying the same thing, is they just group you as this bunch of salespeople trying to sell them. So sales is not about it's not about pushing products. It's about finding problems and solving them, right? You want to be a problem pusher, not a product pusher, right? And like that alone, like compared to anything else we could talk about on sales, that alone is the biggest mindset shift. Because when you start focusing on how can I find their problem and solve it, rather than how can I push my product, they're going to want to work with you. They're going to be like, wow, this guy's different. He really wants to help me. Right. So yeah, I'm glad we got to touch on that too.
That's really one component of the course that stood out to me, AJ, is whilst, yes, we did really get hands-on in terms of these are the tools that we'll be using, this is how we'll set up our tools. This is what automatically I dove into. Being that type of person that is very technical, I very quickly wanted to know, yep, these are the tools. Let me get them set up. Let's get started. Then again, I had
Absolutely.
to kind of adjust my mindset that it's beyond the tools themselves and getting the campaigns going live and up and going, because it took me quite some time to go from, yes, the emails are going out, great, to actually adjusting my offer or my copy to actually having
Yep.
positive replies, and to going from the area of having positive replies to actually increasing the number of appointments. And there are certain KPIs or metrics that one would look at as from a cold email channel that we need to have a look at. And I think the other one is the number of appointments that actually show up. And there are certain processes that we need to adopt in our sales process to just have a look at every stage of the pipeline, and to see how we can increase the conversion rate around those KPIs, as well as reduce any drop off. For a very long time as well, I'd have that sales qualified lead, would take the appointment, the call would go all well, but then I was lacking in my processes in terms of being able to send out proposals in a timely manner. So
Right.
this is when I started to look at some further process automation. Again, I think for an entrepreneur, for any business owner, there's really two aspects that one should be looking at: is your perseverance. You should not give up on any particular problems you'll be facing, because in your day-to-day, you'll continually identify new problems, and you need to be kind of ready to take those challenges head on. And then the other kind of area is your stress tolerance, because with all these kind of challenges that do present, they bring their own stresses, and there's life that comes along with it. So yeah.
I think it even relates to cold email. So getting into like a more tactical side, a lot of people, they'll try cold email, they'll do it for a month or two, it won't really work, and then they'll give up because they don't know how to manage that stress. They don't know how to deal with change, right? They don't know how to manage their emotions very well, right? So I mean, and this is a really great thing to hype on or harp on, because when you first launch your cold email campaigns, you weren't really getting results, and you're like, AJ, what's wrong? And you did the step by step, right? And I think there's a lot of people that do cold email that are not getting more than a couple appointments a week. Meanwhile, they're doing the steps, they're using it instantly, they're doing deliverability, they're doing it's the step-by-step process, right? So I think this brings us more into how it's really about marketing strategy and psychology, not just tactics, right? Because you can launch a cold email campaign, get 0 results. So how did that happen for you? How did you transition to actually getting those like 3, 4, 5 calls a day?
So from strategy, we discussed one area, which was the psychology behind the sales process, crafting the offer, and the messaging. Then again, there are a few other best practices that we need to take into consideration around deliverability. I would deem these around some of the strategies that a cold email marketer should take into consideration. For me, what's worked really well is trying to incorporate the highest level of personalization that is possible in the messaging. That being, so for example, when you're taking your data from your lead source, you'll have many fields at your disposal in terms of data that you can use. And I try to work those data points or those fields into the email copy as creatively as possible. The other kind of area I like to explore is the use of spin tag. I try to make sure that the email that is going out is as unique as possible. By this, for instance, I would try and identify a certain kind of segment in a sentence whereby if I took out this word and I used the thesaurus, I could replace that word in multiple different ways, yet the email would still read the same. Through the use of spin tags and through the use of personalization, I believe these are some of the best practices around ensuring that you're maintaining the deliverability. Our objective is to make sure that our emails are landing that primary inbox. Given that we can incorporate some of these best practices around personalization as well, making each message unique, this was one very important area that only as of recent that I've really kind of nailed down and figured out that, hey, this is a very important part of writing the copy in these tools. Then the other part is, how do we maintain best practices around the use of our email accounts? So by having conversations with a lot of people, as I mentioned in the Facebook groups, for example, I identified that we should cap the sending limit per email account at 30 to 40 emails per day, no more than this. And in terms of the domains that we'd be looking to purchase, there was another strategy that I looked at in terms of appending a prefix and a suffix to the brand term of that domain. And we'd generate a list of domains, say 20 domains that we'd be looking to purchase. Each domain, we would be setting up no more than 3 to 4 email accounts. So really what we're looking to do is to cap the number of emails that goes out from each email account, spread ourselves as wide as possible in terms of the number of email accounts that are coming out from different domains. And then again, rotating those email accounts every few weeks so that we aren't burning out the existing email accounts that we have on hand.
Absolutely. Awesome. So some stuff I want to unpack there. So for anyone who's listening, I know some of the agency owners listening and marketers are already doing some cold outbound, maybe on email or LinkedIn, and they want to scale it. And I know there's some people that are kind of new to it. So if any of these terms are confusing, just let us know. Like, I mean, you can Google these things, spin tags, personalization. Obviously in our Facebook group, we talk about this stuff all the time, but just to kind of like make this down to earth for everyone. So basically, Rami is really talking about personalization as in customizing each message to the prospect in an automated fashion, right? You're not going in there writing an email to each prospect. You're just using automation on instantly and setting it up so that every prospect gets a slightly different message, which helps deliverability, but helps your prospect feel like you're really taking the time to write them a unique message. So I just wanted to clarify that piece for everyone. Really, really powerful. And then you mentioned deliverability, which is huge because we had one client who was an SEO agency and they had scaled from 9K a month to 30K a month with cold email. And once they started working with us to scale it further, so basically they went through our course to triple their revenue, and now they want to triple their revenue again. So we're doing coaching. And what I saw was they had like 30% open rates. So I was like, guys, before you like change the copy, just fix deliverability. And within a couple of weeks, they're getting double the open rates, and double the open rates means you get double the leads. So you have to make sure you have deliverability down. Gmail made a new update in 2024, which we could talk about today, which is making it harder to land in the inbox. So like first step is make sure your tech is solid, right?
Just on this point of Gmail making a new update, these are the exact challenges that, from a paid marketer's perspective, we were facing across many of the ad networks, changing algorithms, different kind of changes around the privacy landscape. Likewise, as cold email marketers, we're going to be facing challenges in the coming future as more people are using cold email as a channel for their marketing efforts. So we need to, as well, in terms of a strategy, I would say knowledge is power. We need to constantly be diving into this particular area of really trying to understand what are best practices for this.
Absolutely, yeah.
The way I like to tell my clients is we need to emulate human organic activity in terms of sending out these emails. So when I think about why is it that we would be making sure that the message is unique, capping the number of emails going out per day, I think about, let's imagine there is a human, a sales development representative that's sending out these emails every single day. It wouldn't be the case that they're blasting 100 emails with the same kind of copy to a list. They're taking a more personalized approach. They're writing these emails out to be, a lot more personalized. In a day, I would imagine that they'd not be able to send more than 20 to 30 emails per day. And that's if they spent the entire 6 hours of their day sending out those emails.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really good point of it too. So one thing I think a lot of people don't realize is like, okay, we all have limited time in a day as an entrepreneur. We only have X number of hours a week we can spend growing our business and getting more clients, right? But really, like, honestly, I spend no more than 1 hour a week on our cold email, no more than 1 hour a week. And even if you spend 2 or 3 hours, like it's the fact that you can get your calendar full with a couple hours a week or even less if you just hire people for it, right? And I don't mean hire an agency. Yes, agencies are great for it. But I mean, like, if you do want to do it yourself, you just need a VA and you need a copywriter, or you can, I still do the copy myself, but everything else is done. Targeting, list building, deliverability is all handled by, like you said, connecting with the right VAs for it, right? So I think it's just pretty cool because, like, guys, everyone listening, there's a way to fill up your calendar like Ramy's done, like I've done, without spending more than a couple hours a week, right? Because you can automate like 80-90% of it. And doesn't require you to be tech savvy either. I know you're very tech savvy, Ramy, but I'm not. I've never learned how to code or anything. So you can do this even if you're not tech savvy at all.
I'm tech savvy, but I'll put my hand up right now. I've set up email accounts myself. I've done the DNS record setup myself.
Yeah.
I know how to do it, but would I do it again? No.
No, there's no reason. You're a business owner. You've graduated from freelancer to business owner, right? And I think a lot of people, they get stuck in that solopreneur mindset, which just overwhelms them really and prevents them from growing. Yeah. I'm glad you point that out because I just imagine you as this like massive tech genius knowing the stuff that you do, but it's cool to know that you still chose to just hand off all the tech because it's like, your time is better spent closing deals and building the team and all of these things. So look, even though we're talking about cold email, all marketing channels work. Facebook ads work, although they're getting very expensive, they still work. Content marketing works, podcasts like this work, right? So like all the marketing channels work, but people always ask me, AJ, what's the best way to get clients for my agency in 2024? And really the best way is the one that gets you the most clients for the least amount of time and money involved. And for me, that's cold email because it's a couple $100 a month and a couple hours a week or less if you delegate more of it, right? So I think this is just really important for people to understand because like sometimes people tell me, I don't know if you thought this before working with us, but sometimes people tell me, AJ, I want to work with you on this stuff, but I don't really have like the time to like do outbound. And you don't need that much time, right?
You touched on this point, AJ, that for you, cold email is the best way. I would say that in the month of September and October, because the appointments have been so frequent, I've really encountered quite a few interesting people that I would have probably never have thought that I would be speaking with. So really, from a channel perspective, there are so many opportunities that I would have probably never spoken to these people if it wasn't for cold email.
Yeah. What's an example of like an opportunity or like a really good client you got that came from using cold email?
It was people in like really kind of important positions that were, dealing with some classified work or some really important groundbreaking research or kind of work that I wouldn't necessarily have identified as an opportunity for myself. Yet for them, they still saw an opportunity that he's presented me with an offer where he can, secure 4 to 5 additional sales qualified appointments for me each day. And for them, that message resonated with them. To give you one example, one particular client was working on cancer research facilities. So they would be kind of matching and pairing kind of researchers with facilities. And I was kind of working with them on that particular area. And there were a few other examples. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but
yeah, no worries.
a lot of the appointments that I did have, I probably would have not reached these people through a paid media campaign.
Oh, absolutely.
I would have been directly blasting them with the service that I'm offering.
Yeah, generic.
Not the solution to their problem. And in this circumstance, everyone has that common problem of not having enough sales kind of appointments in their calendar. And coming directly with that message has worked quite well for me.
Yeah, very direct, very to the point. You know, I think what's interesting that one of the other agencies that I work with, a coaching client, he got a lead from the CFO of Virgin Atlantic, a CFO of one of the biggest companies in the world, right? Came through cold email. And like these people, you're not going to reach through a Facebook ad, because with a Facebook ad, you can only have pretty generic messaging because it's going to like a broad audience, right? I think lead quality is really something we need to be talking about more, because ultimately we have a lot of students and clients that come to us to learn cold email and lead gen. And like a lot of them are already getting a lot of leads. So like we have some people like you where they come to us because they're like, hey, I want to build my sales system. I want to stop relying on referrals. Some people I work with, they already are getting a lot of leads, but they want to maybe break into a new market, or they want to start landing higher price clients, and they need a targeted way to do that. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think it's really important for people to understand that like, even if you're already getting these other ways, you can use this tool to use maybe like for your top 10% of target clients and those dream clients, right?
Just to kind of give you other examples of some of the types of businesses that I've been reaching through just organic outbound methods. Yes, email is one channel, but LinkedIn being the other. I would say majority of the appointments did come from email. Yeah. But again, both channels are valuable, used kind of very similarly in a way. So one example of a client, they're providing a kind of a supply chain tracking inventory system for on-field applications.
Very specific.
In hospitals, in kind of out in the wild, in like forest, in space, and all of these kind of unusual applications. From my perspective, as a business owner, as an agency owner, I wouldn't think to myself, hey, this is a particular industry or niche I was looking to kind of go after. Then again, it's through the use of these organic outbound channels, through the use of cold email, was I able to reach these kind of important decision makers, these prospects. Another kind of example of a client was a guest experience software for hotel chains. And some of the customers that they were dealing with were some of the hotel brand name chains that we recognize every day, such as like your Hilton, your Marriott.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
They are providing the guest experience kind of review management software to those hotels. And the way the conversation headed with that prospect is that they were looking to target a particular kind of segment in the market to kind of continue and promote the sales of their solution. So SaaS companies as a niche has worked quite well for me.
SaaS companies. Yeah. Most of our clients are agencies, but we have worked with some SaaS and they're scaling with flying colors for sure.
Yeah. So if I was to give you kind of 3 very high level niches, it's consultants, SaaS companies, and then it would probably be agencies.
I appreciate you sharing, sharing some of your secret sauce and what's working the best for you, right? Because I know some people, they just want to keep it to themselves, but like, we grow by helping other people grow and sharing what's working for us. Anyway, to start to summarize some of what I'm hearing of what you're saying has worked for you to scale your agency and get appointments from cold email is, first, you said tech, right? So obviously we have to make sure we're landing in the inbox. Our standard is getting at least 50% open rate, but looking for like 70, 80%. So make sure deliverability is sorted, which is really just a matter in a nutshell of DNS records, using email warm-up, not sending too many emails a day per account, and then using things like spin tax personalization. So that's kind of pillar 1 is the deliverability, right?
On this area of open tracking, I've been seeing quite consistently that it is best practice to kind of turn off that open tracking. So the way I would use open tracking was primarily around, I've got a message that I'm looking to A/B test and to really understand which message actually resonates best with an audience. This is kind of the only application or the use of open tracking, is to track which message actually had a better reply rate, a better open rate. And then from there, once the campaign started performing and I identified that this is the message I wanted to run with, I would turn off open tracking.
I also find that very effective as well because it's one less thing that could hurt deliverability, but you need in the beginning, so it makes perfect sense. We teach the 4 pillars of cold email, which is tech, targeting, which is who am I reaching out to, what's the niche, where am I getting the list from, copy, which is what are you saying, and then the offer, which I think that was the biggest breakthrough for you. I want to kick that over to you, but from what I'm hearing before, it sounded like the biggest breakthrough for you was really getting your offer down and getting the copy to speak about the problem you're solving and the result you're getting, not necessarily here's what I do, here's the features, here's how we're better, et cetera, right? So out of those 4 pillars, is it really that last one, those last 2 that was the big difference maker for you?
Exactly. And even when it comes to some of the other services that I provide, when you think about some of the problems that one could be facing, we are presenting them with, for example, this is the problem, this is the result we produced for a client. Here's our case study immediately to the result and the outcome that we produced for a similar problem. So this is how I would pivot that particular framework around, going head first with a problem, then providing the solution with a similar case study.
That's a really, really good point. One time someone cold emailed me and they said, oh, we worked for Amazon. And I'm like, dude, do I look like Amazon? I'm like running a 10 employee coaching company and training company, right? So although it's impressive if you work with Amazon, you need case studies and social proof in your copy that are relevant to the target audience, which kind of ties back into why cold email is so hyper targeted, because you can build these very specific prospect lists and have very relevant messaging, very relevant case studies. So I'm glad that you touched on the importance of relevance of social proof. That's a really big thing with the copy.
Another important, I think, facet that really needs to be touched on is so many cold email marketers are going directly for that appointment rather than as a call to action for an appointment. What we've been testing as well is trying to push some form of sales collateral, whether it would be an ebook, and the call to action would differ from the original call to action of, do you mind if we hop on a call? Rather, it would be, do you mind if I send this over to you? You're coming over to that prospect with value immediately.
That's pretty funny because so that part you figured out on your own. I don't think that was in our course at the time when you first joined, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is such a cool moment because you've been gone for the last couple of months, right? We worked together in the earlier part of the year. We've now been really pushing people to do lead magnets in their cold outreach, free consulting call, free audit, free analysis, or free downloadable. And it's really funny because that wasn't really a thing back when you were working with us or when you started working with us, but you just kind of realized on your own, like, hey, I should stop asking for a call. Let me offer them something free and it's working better. So yeah, I'm glad we touched on that because the market's getting more competitive, especially if you sell to a market that gets a lot of emails and pitches. Like you need a way to stand out. And if you're targeting e-commerce or you're targeting local businesses or agencies, a lead magnet is a great way to stand out, right? Because everyone else is asking for their time. And like, look, you even said that you're getting some high profile people to work with you, right? You're not going to get like, so again, back to that other example of one of our clients who got a lead from the CFO of Virgin Atlantic. The CFO of Virgin Atlantic is not going to hop on an hour call with just anybody, right? They want to see some value first. So if you're doing cold email or you want to start doing cold email, think about what free value can you offer someone. And guys, a free consultation is not free value. Everybody knows a free consultation is a sales pitch. Actually try to give free value because it'll help you stand out. So I'm glad that you touched on I didn't even know you were doing that, dude. I'm glad that you brought that up. So, they say great minds think alike, right?
Even when it comes to the course, I understand, AJ, you're constantly evolving the content of that course. I'd probably say I'm guilty myself. I don't spend enough time revisiting the contents of the course. But I would say that for anyone that considering taking on a revenue boost or the course itself, the way I see value in this engagement is it's an evergreen resource that you could always, you and your team can kind of refer back to in terms of developing the skills around this area of organic outbound.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, man. I appreciate that. Just take us back to that journey where, so again, at one point you were getting only a couple sales calls a month. And then once you first had that week where you got like 20 sales calls in a week, 4 or 5 a day, what did it feel like? Like the first time that you actually really had a successful campaign that was getting you lots of appointments and clients, what was that like?
Yeah, I do remember those days. I was just sitting with mum at a restaurant and I'd get one notification after the other. You have a new appointment book from Calendly or whatever. I was actually quite surprised, and it was a good feeling to have, a good problem to have. And it became a problem in the sense that in October, I had the middle of November already booked, and There was one
Wow.
particular prospect that I came on call with, and he said to me, "The reason I've come on call with you is because you were booked 2 weeks in advance, and this already
Wow.
sparked my curiosity." And he
Yeah,
said to
that's
me that
amazing.
if you were booked 2 weeks in advance and you're pitching this offer, this is automatically, he gave me this feedback. He said it's building some credibility in your offer already.
That's really insightful. And by the way, if you're watching this, don't just fake book yourself out for 2 weeks because of that. Like actually just get your calendar booked. Because I know some marketers will just try the
No, I
tricks.
actually had to switch off the campaign towards the end of October because I was at capacity for November. And the thing is, the niche that I was targeting, they were US based consultants.
Mm.
And given that I'm in Dubai, there was only a certain time
Time
gap
frame.
that I could
Yeah, the time zone is
catch
it's a pain in the
in
ass.
that
Yeah.
particular time zone. I found myself working kind of a double shift or 2 days packed into one. I'd wake up at 7 a.m. and I'd do kind of my regular activities around the agency. But then I
Yeah.
was taking sales calls from 5 p.m. in Dubai up until 10 p.m.
Jeez.
I said there is that element of continuous improvement that as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we need to continually revisit. And I think if I can continue to keep up this cadence or the consistency in booking these appointments, it'll probably be the case that I need to come off the sales calls. But then again, as a business owner, we think to ourselves, it's always the founder that is the best closer because we understand the tools, the tech. We've really diving deep into this kind of area, and we are the experts around this. But then again, it's not sustainable in the long run to be working those double shift days as
But you
I do.
can't do it 15 hours a day. No matter how much coffee you
Oh,
have, it's going to catch up with you, right? What was
yeah.
your go-to? Was it like Monster or coffee?
Red Bull's my choice.
Red Bull. There we go. Well, I'm sure your liver will forgive you because it's happy that you just like basically scaled your business. So at least there's maybe a temporary trade off there. But yeah, I've done it too, man. There's been times where, so right now I have a sales team. And by the way, offline, if you want to connect, like I can help you find some salespeople because I know that's definitely the next step here. Once you start getting booked for 2 weeks out, like first of all, go, celebrate, jump up and down. That's amazing. But second thing is like, okay, now you are the bottleneck, right? Even if you can close better than a salesperson would, which often is the case, like it doesn't matter. I'm really of the belief that if an employee can do a job 80% as good as me, then they should be doing that job because otherwise you're just capped by how much time you have in a day. There was one day where I did 15 hours straight of calls or 15 calls straight. And although it was great, we got some clients, I was wrecked. I was like, what happened to the freedom I signed up for? Right. So
Yeah, no,
I think, yeah.
I did go through some periods with the business where I really enjoyed quite a lot of freedom. Then
Yeah.
again, having too much freedom as a business owner can be concerning. But then when you come
Yeah.
to face these types of problems of taking on, as you described, too many calls back to back as well, there needs to be a solution to this. And I think
Yep.
this is where the closers actually do come in.
I mean, really, the trajectory for growth for any agency is okay. Assuming you know what you're fulfilling on, assuming you kind of know who's my niche, what's my offer, assuming you have the basis of your business figured out, then it's smash lead gen, right? Make sure you're filling up your calendar with leads. Once you've solved that, then it's about getting the sales conversions down. Make sure there's a sales process before you go out and hire someone because you need to make sure we have a script, make sure we have a pre-call process, post-call process, CRM. Once sales process in place, then you basically scale by getting a setter and a closer. And once that's there, it's amazing because then oh my God, I can take a vacation for a month and I'm still going to get leads and close and onboard clients. And that's a whole nother journey. With that said, one of the last questions I want to ask you before we wrap up is, and by the way, we're going to do a quick summary, rapid fire questions at the end, but before we wrap up, so you basically went from, like no sales system, not really feeling very confident in sales to now being booked out for weeks and filling your calendar with cold email, closing deals, and you've transformed so much in the next year. What's next for you? Like, how are you looking at the next year of your business differently now that you've solved this leads problem for good?
See, in the short term, we're looking to partner with a few other agencies. I mentioned to you that I've already been in conversation with agency owners that are looking to solve this problem around having a gap in terms of the number of sales qualified meetings. Now, I mentioned to you that some of these agencies have been in the market much longer than I have. They've got those case studies backing them, and they've worked with some really large enterprise and government clients. Uh, Now, I think in the short term, I'd really like to focus on what I would refer to as a sales channel partner area of the business, whereby
Yeah.
I'd be looking to set up campaigns and run kind of the campaigns on behalf of other businesses. And I've structured the compensation model in a way whereby they fulfill the services to any of the leads that I bring in, then I would be compensated from a kind of a revenue share perspective.
Yeah. So you're going performance-based, kind of almost white labeling in a way, or?
Exactly. So really it's just the engagements around performance-based, working with other agency owners to really push their offers, their services, and their solutions.
Love it. Love it.
An example of one of the agencies that I'm engaging with, they're selling a digital transformation roadmap that is targeted towards enterprise clients that is valued at 150,000 US dollars.
I think that's smart, man. I mean, I've been thinking the same thing. We've helped like over 400 agencies right now scale with cold email, LinkedIn, and also just like the sales coaching side of it, how to close and scale. And I'm thinking now, like, I'm looking also at some niches, maybe some financial niches where I can partner with some really big companies and just do a full percent. So it makes sense. I mean, honestly, a lot of marketers do this. A lot of marketers, once you get really good at marketing, you start to realize like, I have magical powers. That's really how I view it, right? Once you have those magical powers, it's like, okay, I can use these for retainers, but I can also use these to build my own companies and build my own partnerships.
These magical powers, I really thought as though they would come from paid channels. I was actually, really doing quite well from a paid channel perspective, whether it be on Facebook ads, Google ads. But then again, as I said, some of the challenges that marketers are facing, I've had to somewhat pivot in the short term. And
absolutely.
Organic outbound is definitely another channel that I'd like to be, expanding my knowledge in, and I continue to do so every day.
And you've really like come so far in a year. It's like super proud for me to see. It's very inspiring to me when I see someone who's worked with us, learned our methods, applied them, scaled his business, and then we're catching up a year later and seeing like how much they've evolved. So yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to crush in 2024. And I'm excited to have you back another year later to talk about what's next from there. But before we wrap up, any last words you'd say to anyone that's considering launching cold email or just even considering working with me and the team at Revenue Boost? Because I know you've been on the inside of it.
I guess from my perspective, it's a missed opportunity if you don't. So if you're serious about growth, then these are the channels and the tools at your disposal as a marketer. And whether you choose to take the action on ignoring organic outbound, again, that's probably one problem that you could be facing. But then again, the aspect of diving deeper into this area, you definitely identify the opportunities and the fruits that come with tapping into this channel. So I would say just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. Awesome, man. Well, to summarize here for everyone who's been listening, we talked about the 4 pillars to cold email, right? Tech and deliverability, targeting, make sure you have the right niche and make sure that you have the right list. Copy, make sure you're not talking about the features, you're talking about the problem you solve and you share relevant case studies. Offer, which is don't just go for a call. Think about what you can do to offer lead magnets. So love hearing these lessons for you, man. I think to go from only a couple appointments a month to being booked out for 3 weeks with your sales calls, like that's incredible, man. I'm excited to see what's next. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you or maybe even partner with you or work with you?
Yeah, I'm probably most active on LinkedIn. So Rami Alcheikh on LinkedIn. And then if you were to visit the agency website, it's emergedigital.ae. So in terms of a physical presence, we've got our office in Sydney, Australia. This is where the business had originally started. And now as a Dubai mainland company as well. But the client base, really, it is a global client base. We're looking to serve businesses from all various regions around the world. Just in the past 3 months, I've been really having those conversations with clients in the US. And when I was back in Australia, I didn't really have that luxury from the time zone perspective. When it would be 5 p.m. in the US, it was probably around 6, 7 a.m. in Sydney. It was not kind of possible to have conversations with people in the US. Now that I'm here in Dubai, more of a kind of a centralized time zone, I can reach people within Europe, I can reach people within Asia, and still catch people over on the kind of the West and East Coast as well.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, for everyone listening on the podcast or everyone listening on the Facebook group, we'll link Ramy's information below. Also, Ramy, last question. Would you be willing to share a winning cold email template? We can take out the niche if you want with the viewers.
The purpose behind this podcast is to help others, educate people. And I would have not come this far if I didn't have your help and other people's help within the Facebook group, for example. I think it's all about helping one another. So whether it be sharing an email template, I'm all for that.
Awesome. Love the generosity, man. It's all about paying it forward. And for everyone listening, if you're watching this in the Facebook group, you can just comment below and we'll send you the template. And if you're listening to the podcast, just email me at aj@revenueboost.net. I'll share it with you and I'll connect you, send you Ramy's information too if you guys want to chat. So email me aj@revenueboost.net and you're going to get a winning copy template that's helping Ramy book 4 to 5 calls a day. So love it, man. Thanks for coming to the show. Pleasure to have you. And I wish you the best of luck with the end of the year.
Thank you so much, AJ. Same to you.
All right. See you soon.
See you.